الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ومولانا محمد وآله وأزواجه وذريته أجمعين. We've been looking at the types of arguments taught in traditional logic courses in Islamic schools. So we looked at Al-Burhan and we looked at Al-Khitaba, and we also looked at the third one we are going to look at is Jadal, polemical argument. And that's an argument which is either constituted by من مقدمات مشهورة تختلف باختلاف الأزمنة والأمكنة، وقد يكون الشيء مشهورا عند قوم دون آخرين. So that's the first one. And the second one, so either or both، من مقدمات مسلمة عند الناس وعند الخصمين. And مسلمة بين الخصمين, either that doesn't matter whether they're true or false. يبنى عليه الكلام في دفع كل من الخصمين صاحبه ليبنيه، والمقصود منه قهر الخصم وإقناع من لا قدرة ولا فهم البرهان. Okay, so that's the third type of argument. Let's look at it. So the third type of argument is al-jadal. And in strength they are the third, although some commentators have put them in the second. And these are the arguments which are made up propositions which are either well known among people, in the sense that accepted, as true, I guess. But these, they noted that this acceptance changes with the change in space and time. So in different times, different things are accepted. So people might accept one thing at one time, like in Middle Ages, but not accept that as true in the modern time, and etc. And space as well, like at the same time, in different communities, some things are accepted and some things are not accepted. But polemical arguments are those which are accepted among people. So I guess if you are arguing with someone, so the people who are part of argument, they will all accept it as true. Otherwise you can't proceed. But these which are well known to be true, among people, large number of people. And then you have accepted propositions which might not be well known among certain people, of which those people who are part of arguments are also part of, but these propositions might be accepted among the parties in dispute or parties in the argument, irrespective of whether they are true or false. Okay, so polemical arguments are the arguments which are either constituted of proposition which are well known at the time, or they are constituted of proposition which are accepted by disputants as true, irrespective of whether they are true or false. So these two types or combination thereof constitutes a polemical argument this type. And the examples they give is that, for example, oppression is bad. Every oppression is bad. So this act is oppression. So this is bad. So this is something which people normally accept, but obviously they might disagree as to what oppression actually is, or the concept of oppression. And the purpose of these argumentations, I say, the purpose of this type of argument to win over to win an argument, basically, or to persuade someone who is not intelligent enough, that's what they, to understand logical arguments, the first type. Okay, so how is this different from al-khataba? I think one difference which you can see is that khitaba or persuasive argument the difference is that one difference is in their purpose. So these type of arguments are between disputing parties. So the purpose is to win an argument, really, it seems like, or to persuade someone who is not intelligent enough. So in a sense, is this part of persuasive argument as well. But persuasive argument, on the other hand, is not a polemical argument. It is more of an argument in which you try to persuade another person or a group of person. That's one obvious difference between these two. So persuasive argument is more, you can see that truth is still a dominant character in that persuasive argument. And in the polemical argument, truth might not be the overwhelming factor, I guess. And the second is the nature of the premises. So in Al-Khitaba, the premises are either based on trustworthy people and their reports, or the second one are the probabilistic arguments, probabilistic generalizations, I guess, or probabilistic premises. So they're more like inductive arguments. On the other hand, the premises in polemical arguments are either accepted propositions among people, which may change from time to time and place to place, or those premises which are accepted among the disputants for the sake of argument, irrespective of whether they are true or false. So I think the basic difference seems to be that persuasive argument is still the overwhelming purpose is truth. On the other hand, polemical argument, the purpose is to win, really. And even in the premises, although persuasive argument consists of premises which are not absolutely true, but still they are probably true. So they are probabilistic arguments. On the other hand, in polemical argument, the premises are, as long as the parties within the argument or in dispute accept them as true, they are considered true. So the truth bar of the premises and the truth bar of the whole purpose of the argument is quite low in polemical argument. Okay. And the fifth type of argument is called poetic argument, and it doesn't mean that they are based on poetry, but they resemble poetry in that these arguments are based on emotive propositions, and the purpose is to either basically to, through different techniques, through the use of simile, through the use of imagination, to create certain types of positive or negative emotions in your addressees. So and it is interesting that this is considered still part of argument, because emotions, though, are not reason. They are not entirely divorced from reasons. And emotion and the creation of emotion has effects of persuading or dissuading someone from something, not through using their normal persuasive techniques, but creating through imagination and other linguistic techniques certain emotions, negative or positive, about certain things among your addressees. For example, if you want to create a negative effect in your addressee about alcohol, for example, so you might describe alcohol as something disgusting using your linguistic techniques. On the other hand, if you want to create a good emotive effect about honey, for example, among your addressees, then you will describe it in a rosy language, and vice versa. And obviously it doesn't have to be in poetic form, it can be prose, but which uses these techniques. Okay, the last one is sophistry. Sophistry obviously is a reference to sophists, but sophistry is an argument which is a fallacious argument. So it's an argument which seems sound, but actually in reality it is a fallacious argument due to one or the other fallacy, whether the fallacy is formal or informal. So for example, you might say, use one premise where you are saying the bank is full of money, the bank is right, for example, but here the bank means the actual bank, and the bank here might mean, the bank of a river, for example, or something similar. Probably I should think of a better example because the bank is wet doesn't make sense in English. And obviously the purpose of sophistry is to create doubts about something using false techniques. So the truth element in this law is zero. It is a deceptive form of arguments. So that's the last type of argument, and the weakest for obvious reason. Let me see if I can think of a better example of sophistic. I mean, in Arabic, the examples in this book, the example they have given is هذا فرس. This is horse. وكل فرس سهال فهذا سهال. And obviously this is a false argument because, false argument because faras in Arabic is horse, and sahal is a horse as well, but sahal is a specific type of horse, and not every faras is sahal. But just because they are both words for horse, they might use this deception to arrive at a false conclusion. Obviously, the examples normally given are obvious examples, but in the real use of those arguments, people use more subtle type of sophistical argument. But we give obvious example just to make the meaning of the or the concept of the argument clear. So, for example, this one I just saw in, just to give you a taste of sophistical argument and some better looking English example. For example, the argument that cutting people is a crime, and since doctors cut people open in operation, so doctors commit crime. But obviously cutting in both in this premise, the first and second premise are used in different sense. So that's the deception through which seemingly formally strong argument is actually a deceptive and false argument, an unsound argument. Okay, I'll stop here.